Welcome to the Dental Team Podcast. I'm your host, Kiera Dent, and I had this crazy idea that maybe I could combine a doctor and a team member's perspective because let's face it, dentistry can be a challenging profession with those two perspectives. I've been a dental assistant, treatment coordinator, scheduler, biller, office manager, regional manager, practice owner, and I have a team of traveling consultants where we have traveled to over 165 different offices coaching teams. Yep, we don't just understand you, we are you. Our mission is to positively impact the world of dental, and I believe that this podcast is the greatest way I can help elevate teams, grow VIP experiences, reduce stress, and create A-teams. Welcome to the Dental Team Podcast. Hello, Dental Team listeners. This is Kiera, and I've got the one and only, no BS, Brittany Stone on the podcast today. Britt, how you doing?
I'm doing great today. How are you?
Good. I don't know, Britt. I think my middle name or first name should be Pivot Queen because I texted Britt early this morning and said, "Hey, Britt, you want a podcast this morning? Because we were supposed to podcast tomorrow." And I'm like, "But I'm driving today. We could car cast. Are you down for it?" And lo and behold, here she is. Britt, would you agree I should be called like Pivot Queen? Is that a real thing?
For sure. I mean, there's a lot of nicknames we can give. That's definitely one of them we can give you for sure. And I feel like car casting is one of your favorites. So.
I mean, I don't do it very often. I actually took the podcast out of my bag because I thought it weighed like 10 pounds. I actually weighed it on the scale and it was only 3. But my bag feels like 1,000,000 pounds with this thing in there.
3 pounds is a lot on your back.
It feels extra. I was like, sheesh, man. And of course, the one time I did, I needed some things from it, which is fine. But no, car casting has been a while. I just feel like it's a good use of time. Headed to an office today, and you're free before you go on a day full of calls. And so why not do the book club, which this month book club was, I don't really know, Britt. I feel like it's called like 4 different names. But we read...
It's got 2 technically, I think.
There's
that like
what
an
it
old
is?
version and a new version. Yes. Of course, because of who I am, I'm like, what is going on?
I'm like, I can't find this on Amazon. I couldn't figure it out. So, Britt, you intro it and explain why it has 2 different names. But this is this month's book club, and I'm excited about it because it was a really fun book for us to read.
Yeah, so OG name is The Color Code by Taylor Hartman. So it's Color Code originally, and then he updated the version and then called it the People Code. So that's, I believe, what happened. But so that's why I have the physical book, which is the Color Code, which is the original version. So, but I think content's the same.
Okay, because what was odd, so Britt and I did an in-person event, and Britt, kudos to her, she's a new home owner. And so I spent the day at her house and I saw the color code on your desk. And no joke, is the exact one my mom had that I took when I was like itty bitty little. Because she's like, "Kiera, take this book." And I'm like, I remember how this worked. A is red, B is blue, C is white, and D is yellow. He wasn't smart enough back then to like shake these up into a pattern that you couldn't figure out. And I definitely figured it out. I was like, okay, so if I do all A's, I'm red. And if I do all B's, I'm this. So I'm going to skip the B's because I don't want to be a blue. But
Hey there. Hey.
This is why I had Britt do this one with us. So for those of you wanting to read it, I actually, like I said, it's an OG book, and I feel like DISC follows it and Culture Index follows it. But I don't know. This one, I think it was just a good old school read, and I think the reason I liked it is because it is old school. I feel like politically correctness was like non-existent in this, and he laid thick on like, this is who you are, this is why you suck, this is why you're great, and any questions, don't even bother asking. Like, that's how I felt, but I don't know how you felt.
It's pretty cutthroat. Like, you read it and there's a little bit of flattery in there of like the good of each color, but there's a lot of like, ouch, like he definitely cuts deep on the reality of things.
He did.
So I felt the same way.
I was like, wow, I'm glad I'm a red because shoot, a lot of those other colors, that's a stressful thing, but not really. I mean, I think that's just me having the opinion, and I fit true to the red color on that of thinking that I'm amazing when everyone else just got ripped to shreds. So all
When I'm like,
things.
who really came out? Like, I feel like smelling the rosiest. I think yellows came out smelling the
Well,
rosiest in that
yeah, because
book.
he's a yellow. And I'm like, of course you're going to write this. Of like, I think his exact phrase was something like, the yellows are the frosting and sprinkles on the cake. And I'm like, all right. Well, I'm glad you have high, high love of who you are as a person.
Right.
But to give you guys some background on it, this book really is understanding people and understanding the way people think, understanding the way people act and operate, and getting to their deep motives, which I'm always a fan of. The more I know about people, the more I can speak to them in their preferred terms and their preferred model, the better I am as a leader, and also knowing myself as a leader. So, Britt, I don't know if you want to kind of like dive into a quick synopsis of the red, the blue, the white, the yellow, for those of you who don't know these colors and aren't as familiar of what they mean. And then we'll dive into like some of our thoughts that you guys can then take for book club for your own thoughts.
Yeah, for sure. So it starts off with red, and I'm like, Kiera, because that is you, why don't you give us a description of red, and then I can go through the rest of them.
Sure. So red, I think, are your. I really actually loved his like the imagery. So red was fire, blue was I don't remember. Sorry, Britt. Do you remember what blue?
Oh, I don't remember what he
Well, white
described it
is
as, but
water, and yellow was like sunshine. So the blue, I don't know. We'll say the sky,
Earth,
earth. There,
sky,
good.
maybe. We'll see.
But I like the imagery of like the fire. We're gonna say earth, water, and then sunshine, which to me, I'm very visual. So it was like red brings in the fire. Like they're fun, they're bold, they're strong, they're going to drive things, sometimes a little recklessly. Like you think about a fire, either can be contained in adding so much value to the room, or it can be a full blown blaze and take over and destroy. And then you've got, like I said, I should really look this up. I should have prepared. But the blue, I'm just going to go through because I'm going to pull these colors. But the
Okay,
blue
go
is
for
more, you should actually do, I'll skip to white and yellow. You'll come back to blue.
it.
The white with water is white is like that equalizer, the peacemakers. So they're going to flow into whichever category, making peace wherever they go. And then your yellow are your fun, the sunshine, the life, the vibrancy of life. And so clearly I only remember those three colors. Sorry about the blues. But those helped
I
me at
think
least
blue
see.
is. I think blue is. Did you say was one of them sky yet?
I felt like it was sky. Like blue was sky.
Yeah, I think blue is sky.
And so you tell about blues, Britt, because you're more blue, obviously, than I am. So to go ahead on the blues.
Yeah, so like your blues they describe as like your do-gooders, like they're your moral compass people. They usually have a pretty strong moral compass within them, and they live pretty strictly by that, and they'll fight for that moral compass. So they're a little bit like similar to red. They're kind of like that driver piece, but different drivers within them. Whereas blue's driven a little bit by like the moral, and they're a little bit more of the emotional as well than like your red is. So that's a little bit about blue. Like they're usually your perfectionists, they're your loyal people, they have high expectations, they can be kind of demanding sometimes. Pretty self-disciplined. They can be like self-sacrificing as well to get things done if there's like a greater purpose in mind. Our downsides are that we could be kind of that unforgiving or resentful. We can hold on to things a little bit sometimes. And because we've got that moral piece within us, we can also be a little self-righteous because we're like, well, we have the moral high ground. So like we're right.
And I also thought something interesting with blues is how guilt-ridden blue personalities are. Which for reds, don't use that to your advantage and take advantage knowing they're guilt ridden. When I read that, I was like, interesting to note. But just the thought of living by so much guilt in life, which I do know I do run by guilt. I do have a decent amount of blue in me. But really, I thought that was something so interesting by blues of how much guilt is in their life. And then also holding on to past things. Like, heaven forbid you cross a blue, you can just count it out for the next, 100 years because they'll probably hold on to that one thing, which I also thought was interesting. So one thing I loved, Britt, in the book was how he talked about, like, let me lay this out of who you are and personality. But I think so often people use personalities as weapons and like, well, this is who I am. And I feel you said something, Britt, that I thought was so masterful when you said, but there's mature versions of these colors. And I think that's the opposite of weaponizing our personalities or saying, well, this is just who I am, but really being mature within those colors. And so, Britt, I don't know if you want to highlight that or if you had other thoughts, but that to me
Yeah.
was one of my favorite things that you and I had talked about with this book.
I think it's easy when we start thinking about any sort of personality test whatsoever, is like human nature is we can't help but like compare and see where we fit in, right? So I think that's just a natural thing that all of us do with these types of things, when in reality there's no best and there's no worst. We might think, usually we'll think the ones that are like us are the best, and the ones that are like most opposite of us are the worst ones, which isn't reality. So I think it's easy to do and easy to compare in that way, but really truly realizing that when like all personalities are good, I'm a firm believer in like we need some variety in life, and variety in people help to kind of make us a little bit more well-rounded, help us to like better understand each other, and just make us better humans in general. So I think I preface it with that. And then the other piece of it is you could have any one of these colors and the most like immature version of them, where they have no concept of like recognizing their strengths and weaknesses, reining in the things that are tough, a tough impact on other people, and like leaning into those things and kind of being their probably most like selfish self. And like truly lean into like, well, I'm just going to do all the things that naturally I want to do, like no regard for anybody else or what any other personality might need or any other person might need for me. And that's a very different human than, awesome, I understand like who I am and how I function in the world, and I don't have to compromise who I am, but I can be aware of how other people function, and I can learn to kind of meet in the middle, right? And understand them, still be me, meet in the middle, but maybe not be that extreme version of me with someone who has a really hard time with that extreme version of me.
And I also think it was something interesting that I've been just piecing together of, if you're self-aware enough, you can use this book to really like master who you are, because I actually think an amazing version, like, yes, I love that I'm red and yellow and all those pieces, like but I think there's so much goodness in blue and there's so much goodness in white, and I think there's evil sides to a red and to a blue and to a white and to a yellow. Like all of them have their bright side and their evil side. And so something else of like, you can tone it down and you can be very self-aware and you can really master those necessarily not positive traits within your personality, but you've got to be super self-aware. So something I just thought was interesting, a couple of highlights from the book, and then Britt, I want some of your highlights. Sales are your reds and your yellow personalities. So if you're looking for someone for your treatment coordinator in your practice, or potentially even an office manager, like if you want someone for sales, you want to look for a red yellow personality. Like those are your drivers, those are your fun people, they're the ones that are connections. If you want someone for finance and details, you're looking for your blues and your whites. So like your detail oriented blue and white, you're more like outgoing personalities, red and yellow. And then I loved when they talked about the magic of motive. And so red is motivated by power. They need to be right and they can be bossy. That doesn't mean you always have to have them be right, but like just realize that that's what they're motivated by. So can you put them in positions that would really play to that? Blues are motivated by intimacy. So closeness, connection, relationships, they're not going to give that freely. You can talk to Britt about that. Like to get Britt's walls down, it's like you got to take a sledgehammer and then like 100 more. Britt has a lot of walls, but like if you can get beyond that, and she's truly driven by like close-knit relationships of true knowing they're genuine. White are the driven by peace, and the yellows are driven by fun. So, and I'm sure all of you can think about your teams. I literally sit here giggling, thinking about like Shelby's our white personality, Tiff's our yellow personality. And I'm like, you throw all four of us in a bag. You've got Kiera, who's super driven, Britt, who's like, hold on. Shelby's like, whoa, let's just keep the peace. And Tiff's like, let's have a party. And yet that is literally what all of us are driven by, and we all are needed. And cute, Britt, I hadn't thought about this, but our core 4 leadership team, as we've been building 10LA team, have all 4 of those colors sitting at the table, which I do think is a positive and a negative, because we all have our own agendas on it.
I would agree with that for sure. And I think with that, recognizing how you can, the more people can function to their natural ability, like the more productive they're going to be, right? It takes less energy for them to try to be someone else or be something different. And I think that's something to truly like recognize and acknowledge here, that it's not that someone like can't do it, but they're going to be most successful when they kind of align their position and their responsibilities with their personality, and they're really going to thrive.
Agreed. And I think it's just a zone of use these books, like rereading it as an adult from when I was a little kid and my mom was so excited. And like, I remember taking a pencil, Brit, and filling in the boxes of like, which one am I most like? Now there are
Mm-hmm.
more opportunities, and we'll even put in there a quick link. Brit found one that was way faster than the one I found for Jason. Notice the details, the right versus the like, it's good enough. But I think it's a really cool one to have your team read. And when we did this with our team, most of our team are blue. Like a lot of our consultants are blue. We have some
Mm-hmm.
yellow, some white, and then 2 reds in our group, which I don't think is, again, it doesn't matter the color of makeup. It's just like Britt
Mm-mm.
said, for me, I took it as how can I put people in the right positions based on what they're naturally good at? And then for me, really just like you said, I think how can I mature my color code, if you will, to just be a better person and not like I know reds can be bossy, so making sure I slow that down. I'm not bossy, I'm not driven by that. Like it's never going to go away. I've got this internal natural like knack to me, but like you said, maturing that, calming it down on the negatives, like really listening to the tips. Like I was like, got it, I need to like
Mm-hmm.
show my feelings more to be more intimate and like truly taking a true assessment and moving on. I remember my mom is a blue through and through and through, and I called her and I said, Mom, like no wonder you hate grandma. Like I figured it out. You hate grandma for some like thing she did to you when you were 2 years old or 5 years old. I'm like, you gotta go let that stuff go. Like there is no reason to hold on to that in your life because all it's doing is making you suffer. And it's easy for me as a red because it's like come and go as it is. And my mom was like, yep, I know that. But my mom still, like, my mom is one of the nicest people. She literally, like, blue definition to a, like, she makes all of our events amazing. She makes our birthdays incredible. Like, she is a magic moment person. She'll remember all of our birthdays. She remembers all of our anniversaries, all of our holidays. Like, my mom is so thoughtful. And so that's her beautiful side to her. But I think a mature blue, like, you've got to let go of that guilt. You've got to forgive. You've got to move on to allow relationships to flourish. Because it's funny, I'm like, blues are driven by intimacy, and holding on to resentment and guilt pushes intimacy away in like close relationships. And same thing with reds, like they control this power, but being bossy is going to push people away from them. And whites like
Mm-hmm.
require peace, like that's what they strive for, but they're lazy and motivated and don't make decisions, which honestly creates pure chaos and the opposite of it. And yellows want fun, but they're so disorganized and they forget things that oftentimes people are pushed away from their fun because they're so sick of them only being self-centered, that they're so self-centered and wanting fun that they push away all the friends. So it's interesting to see these motives and what we're driven by, but that our personalities can actually push the thing we seek the most away. And if you're self-aware enough, you can actually bring what you crave the most in by maturing your personality. So Britt, that was like my like cherry on top of things, like my total take everything down. I think it's like be aware of what I'm driven by and what am I doing to repel that so I can get more of that in my life.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. And I think also like helping other people along the way too, right? I think that you're going to come across when you're a mature color, you're going to start to be able to recognize things in other people and see like why they're functioning the way they are. And then I think you can help them kind of start to recognize what's driving them, what like kind of why they're functioning in a way. It makes you a little bit more empathetic. Here's my blue coming out in me. It makes you a little bit more empathetic towards them to understand where they're coming from, and as a leader, I think it helps you to guide them and grow them into one, just a more mature human, and two, probably into a more mature place within their position and what you need them to be responsible for.
For sure. I love I love Britt and I on this podcast so much because I'm like, you just had a very clear black and white, red personality and blue personality show up. Kira's like, cool, got it. This is how I need to change myself, make myself better, and be a better person in this world. And Britt's like, and this is how we can help more people. And I'm like, it's so crazy how much we fall into these natural personalities. But I really do think, like, kudos, Britt, agreed, because if you can see this as a way to enhance your team, to highlight people's successes, also as leaders to grow people, like, I can help Britt be like, girl, you got to let go of that, like, self righteous judginess. And she can be like, girl, you got to let go of that bossiness. Like, just knowing that or enhancing it, I really think can make a team even more dynamic. But like Tiff sometimes, and shoot, she'll listen to this. Spiffy Tiff, I want her to hear this. She knows that she's disorganized, can be self-centered, forgets things. And so Tiff knows it. And so she's got to find ways to fix that, because at the end of the day, it's true. I'm like, Tiff, I can't hear this excuse one more time. Like, I got it. You forget things. Find a way to remember them. We're in 2023. I don't care what you got to do. Like, tattoo it on your arm if you need to, but there are solutions here. And for me, different personalities, different things. Shelby, like, Shelbs, I need you to make decisions. I know they're hard for you. I just need you to come in and make a decision on this. But Britt, my question is to give the listeners a tip. How do you actually change personality and become more mature when that fights against everything internal? Like, to tell Shelby to make a decision, like, that's like going against her DNA. She's like, are you kidding me? I'd rather not. And Tiff, like, are you kidding me? You want me to remember? And for me, like, are you kidding me? You want me to be less driven? And for you, are you kidding me? You want me not to hold on to this? Like, how do you actually go beyond that when that feels like it goes against internal nature?
I know. I think that acknowledging the thing, like, can take away some power of it once we know that it's there, right? So, like, for me, even just helping them be a little bit more aware of, like, I understand with, like, Tiff, the disorganization, and, like, Tiff tries, like, I give Tiff a lot of credit. I'm like, our team have a lot of mature colors. So, like, they recognize it and they work with it, right? So it's like, if they recognize the thing and then we figure out ways to help you with the thing, or like we recognize thing and we know that, like, it's a hard thing for you, but it's not an impossible thing. And the more you do the hard thing, the easier it's going to get. And I think that's how you can guide them to maturity, is like recognize that it is a thing for them, right? Instead of saying like, oh, it's not a big deal. Like, I recognize it's a tougher thing for you, so let's figure out solutions. And the more you practice it, the more you work at it, like, it will improve. It may not be the same as someone else, but you can grow as a person on your own level and improve to another level from where you started.
I appreciate that perspective a lot. I just think to me, that feels like ownership of your personality, of me owning and not excusing because of personality. Like, I'm going to own this. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to be aware of this and find solutions rather than using this as an excuse for poor behavior. And I just think, again, that's maturity versus immaturity of your personality. And my suggestion is 1% better every single day. Like, try to improve, or take a focus of your personality from this book and focus on that month. Like, how can I be more of this or less of this? And I think while staying in your color is brilliant, I really went through and I highlighted things from all the different personalities, and I want to pick pieces of each of them to start to bring into my own life. And I think that's really where you do become that well-rounded person that can blend in the areas, that can empathize with the others, and also guide and lead other people, because you yourself have changed as well. So I thought it was a fun book. I thought it was a good oldie but goodie read. I don't know if you had any other thoughts you wanted to wrap up with today, Britt.
No, I think that's really, you hit the key points. I think it's, if you want to understand people better, like, it's definitely worth a read. There's a lot of good information in there to start understanding yourself and understanding others, and then agree to apply it. It starts with you first, right? So, like, if you're not mature in your color, like, that's where you need to start, and then you can help use it to help other people grow and to communicate better and to motivate people better based on who they are.
Brilliant. So to take this and apply it for you guys, I would recommend snag the book. I listened to it on Audible. Britt brought it. There is a quiz within. There's also quite a few quizzes online. You could even have your team take it. There's short summaries on there. You guys heard our summary here. The red, blue, yellow, white. Disc, I think, also applies to it a lot. This one to me was just a more deep, cutthroat, like, rip the band-aids off, like, let me just lay it out there of exactly what it is, version of personalities than other books that I've read as well. So whether you like, it depends on how you like it. This one's more, I think, like, very direct and very honest, as opposed to one that's more politically kind. And so just depending upon your flavor of reading, that's what would be. So if I was doing this in a book club, have my team read it, all of us take the personality thing, and then look to see where are we really strong, where can we grow, and maybe setting ourselves like a quarterly growth goal of which one do we want to improve this quarter. So whatever you want to do, I just always think end all be all, each of us should be striving to improve ourselves as people, to become better employees, better owners, better teammates, better colleagues, better spouses, friends, siblings, to just mature our color and our personality instead of using it as an excuse for lazy behavior.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So take it on, guys. Next month, Britt, what's our book for next month's book club?
Oh, good question. Give me 2 seconds. I'll
Put
tell
Britt
you.
on the spot on that. The next one's a health one, and it's going to be different. And then December, just to give you guys, if you want to get ahead, December is going to be Ryan Holiday's The Obstacle is Way. So November is going to be, I believe it's like medium. Hold on, I'm pulling it up for you guys as well.
I got it.
Medical
Don't
Medium
worry,
Book
don't
Club.
worry.
Medical Medium by who, Britt?
Medical Medium, which is by Anthony William, and in November is The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday.
So there you guys have it. So go read them. November will be Medical Medium. December is The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. This one was Color Code. If we can help you guys implement this, we do this all the time, like disc profiling, different things like that with offices, helping you see who's on your team, helping you maximize and just exponentially use your teammates better. Reach out, hello@thedentalateam.com. Britt, thanks for being on the podcast today. I super appreciate you.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Of course. All right. For all of you listening, thank you for listening. And I'll catch you next time on the Dental A Team podcast. And that wraps it up for another episode of the Dental A Team podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.